Good morning, everybody, and welcome back to the Messy Cook. Today we are making carrot cake jam. So this is the recipe here. This is in the Ball Book of Canning, or the Bernardin Book of Canning. So I will find the link and I'll add it to the end of the video. So for this recipe, you need a cup and a half of finely grated carrot, and you can see this is quite a fine grate. So that's a cup and a half I put in there already. I have a cup and a half of fresh pears. Make sure they're ripe, but you don't want them really hard. And I've diced these less than a centimeter, just a small dice. I don't want huge chunks in as I'm doing little jars, so we're just going to dump all that in. I'll scrape the rest of that in a second. A cup and 3/4 of canned pineapple. So I'm going to put that in there. And what I use for the canned pineapple, just says canned pineapple, I used Dole crushed in the juice. So they want the juice as well. And that actually worked out to be one of these cans, which is 390 milliliters. You can use pineapple tidbits if you want a little bit bigger pieces. On top of that, we have 3 tablespoons of lemon juice. We also have some spices. So we have a tablespoon of cinnamon, which is right here, 1 teaspoon of ground nutmeg. Oh, sorry, no, one teaspoon of ground cinnamon, a half a teaspoon of ground nutmeg, and a half a teaspoon of allspice. So we're going to add these as well. So we're going to add the lemon juice in. So we'll just pour that in. It does say use bottled lemon juice, not the, don't use fresh. I'm not sure why, but there is some reason. Like I said, not sure why that is. So I'm going to add everything in. I'm going to scrape in the rest of this pineapple. We're going to get it on the stove and get it going. Okay, so I have everything in here. I'm going to turn the stove on. And this says to turn this up here to, let me get the exact heat. Oh, over high heat. Okay, so high heat. We're going to bring this all together, and we want to bring it to a rolling boil. So it's not the juiciest thing, as you can see, but the juices are going to come out in the carrots. The juices are going to come out of the pears. We just want to get this mixed really, really well. The more of the, the juice or the sticky part of the jam that you get is going to come from when you add your sugar in. So basically we want to cook this over a high heat till it comes to a boil, and then we're going to turn it down and simmer it for 20 minutes. We're going to keep it at a very low rolling boil for 20 minutes. After that, we're going to take it out. We're going to whisk in some Surdo or pectin, whatever you use. I'm just using a Surdo brand here. I'll show you. This is the one I use. Brand, so that's what I'm going to use. I would personally like the powdered pectins. I'm not a big fan of the liquid pectins, but you use whatever works for you. I know in the US there's lots of other different brands, Gel, etc. That's not something we can get here. We usually have Bernardin and Surdo, and I'm sure there's other ones I can find online, but for me, Surdo works. So yeah, trying to think. So this, just so you know, for how simple putting a recipe like this together is. This was about about 3 medium carrots, and I didn't even use the whole third one. This was 2 average sized pears, not massive, but decent size. This was actually a little bit less than 2 pears. A can of, like I said, of the pineapple, and just some spices, a bit of lemon juice, and that's pretty much it. Other than that, you're just adding the sugar and the pectin. So this is a low cost recipe. This jam I'm going to be doing in these little tiny jam jars, because it's not a jam I necessarily spread on toast. I like it for things like a charcuterie board or little gifts to give. So anywho, I'm going to get this boiling, and I will come back when everything is all boiling and we're getting close to the 20-minute point. This is coming to a little bit of a boil around the edges. That's not what we want to see this liquid. As you see, it is getting more liquidy in the middle. You want to see that come to a full rolling boil. After that, didn't read the instructions properly, but basically what we need to do is once this middle, you'll see that's the rolling boil when it comes to it. We're going to put the lid on, we're going to turn it down, and we're going to keep it at a very low simmer for 20 minutes. And what that's going to do is that's going to cook the carrots, the pears, the pineapple, so they soften up. Because once we're done and we add the sugar, we'll add the pectin first and then we add the sugar in. We only cook that for about a minute afterwards, like most jams. After the sugar goes in, we cook it for 1 minute, take it out. We're going to put it in the jars, and today I'm going to use a steam canner. So this is a Kitchen Crop brand. The steam canner is it's basically the same method as a boil method, although you don't cover them. You put the water in the bottom and you're going to steam these, but it's the same processing time as you would use for like the boil method, where you boil things, for cover them and let them boil at a rolling boil for 10 minutes. So we're going to steam this for 10 minutes, but we'll show you how that works as we go along. And this is almost there. You can see it's starting to come to a bit of a boil, floating around the pot. I'm going to let this go for a couple minutes, and the smells in here are amazing. If you like those fall smells, that carrot cake, pumpkin, spicy fall smells that you get with apples and things, pears, carrots, whatever, those fall root vegetables, this is definitely a recipe you're going to want to try. So we're, I think, we're at a pretty darn close rolling boil. I'm going to turn this down a touch, and I'm going to put the lid on, and I'm just going to stir it occasionally for 10 minutes. So we'll come back at that 10-minute point when we're ready to put the pectin in. Okay, so I'm back, and I'm just going to show you here. I hope you bear with my camera work. So this has been cooking for 10 minutes, and if you can see, sorry about the steam, let me get that away from there. The pears are a little bit opaque along with the pineapple, so we know that that's cooked. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set this down here. I'm going to add in my pectin. So that's, like I said, 1 package of Certo pectin, or use whatever pectin that you prefer. This is the one I use, so we're just going to stir all that in. There we go, and you just want to see it's all stirred in. We don't want any white bits anywhere. I'm going to put this back on the stove, so we'll move the camera over here. Put this back on the stove, and we're going to turn it up. And I just want to make sure I'm doing this correctly here. Yep, so you're going to bring over a boil up to a boil again. Now we're just going to let that cook for a minute. So let me see exactly so I get all the instructions correct here. Okay, so once this has come back to a boil, and it won't take long, it says high heat, so I'm going to turn it back up here. We want this back to a good boil, just kind of like dissolve a little bit of that pectin, get it mixed in nice and smooth. We're going to get that going, and then we're going to add all the sugar in at once. So you can see it's boiling around here. It's hard to see because there's not a lot of liquid left, but that sugar is going to be what gives us our liquid. So let me set this down. Again, sorry for the camera work. It says to dump all the sugar in at once. This is 6 cups of sugar, so I'm going to add all 6 cups of sugar in. There we go. Put that set aside. And I'm just going to get this stirred in here. It's going to take a little bit, and it will take a few minutes for it to melt down. But that's okay. Oh man, this smells really good. Like I said, this is definitely one worth trying. So let me get this mixed in. I'm going to show you what we're looking at. You want to scrape down all the sugar bits off the side of your pan. Let me see here. This is thick, so I don't want to let go of the pot and hold the camera because I don't want to knock anything off. So I want to make sure all the sugar is incorporated. We don't have any lumps. Scrape down the edges and make sure you scrape along the bottom. So what we're going to do now is we're going to bring this, I'll show you what it looks like now. We're going to bring this to a boil. When that comes to a boil, we're going to boil it for 1 minute. As like I said, if you've ever made jam before, you know once you add the pectin and the sugar in, you got to bring it to a boil. Boil it steady for 1 minute, take it off the heat, and we're going to jar it. So we're going to get this coming to a boil, and I'll show you what that looks like in just a moment. Okay, so this is getting there, but we're not quite at a rolling boil. We want that whole, we don't want just the edges boiling, we want the whole side. You can see that liquid is coming up nicely. Now, there is a trick you can use to get rid of some of that foam. You can add in a teaspoon of butter, which I'm going to do real quick. And I think we're just about 2 boils. So I'm going to put a dollop of that butter in there. We're going to stir this. Oh, we're almost at the whole boil. I just want to make sure. So what that butter does, you're not supposed to can dairy, but this is something that's been FDA approved and tried and tested thing. Okay, that's 1 minute. I'm going to put my timer on for a minute. 1 minute. We don't want any more than that, and we need to stir constantly here. So we're just going to let this stir for a minute, and I'm going to come back and we're going to get these in the jar, and I'll show you how to use that new steam canner. All right, this is off the heat, super duper hot. We got to let this cool for a couple of minutes. We're going to just continue to stir. And that way what happens, that helps evenly distribute the bits and pieces of fruit or carrots, whatever you're putting in it. Just distributes it. And you can see most of that foam is gone. That helped with that tiny bit of butter. I think I used like a half a teaspoon of butter. If you're doing a bigger batch of jam, you could use more, but I don't recommend doing double batches as they don't always set even if you use the right amount of pectin. So the smell of this is amazing. And I've decided what I'm going to do is I'm going to do 2 large jars, because I think this could be really nice topping for something like carrot cake. And again, I usually use this on a charcuterie board. I had it once before with a friend that made it, and it was absolutely amazing. So we're going to get to canning these. I'm going to move things over a little bit so hopefully you can see as we go, and we'll get to that process. So when I can, I stir as I stir my pot here, just to evenly make sure that fruit is evenly distributed. So I'm so sorry about the camera work here. So there we go. So we want to fill this up to about a centimeter head space. I'd say about 1/4 inch. So I'll show you where I like it to. And as soon as I do this one, I'll zoom in here and show you this. So this is about 1 good scoop of, maybe a tiny bit more of the jam. So now I know there's different measuring little things, so I'll show you here. If you look, there's a couple lines. There's a bottom line, so that's about a little over a centimeter. You can go up to this top one here, but honestly, I think this is your best bet. I like to keep a little bit of head space so we don't get any leakage from the jars when we do them. So I'm going to continue to fill these. I'll fill these small ones at the same, these small ones here. I'm going to fill them to the same, just to about this, between the bottom and the middle one there. And we'll come back and get the canning process started. As you've seen me do before, move this out of the way, I am being sure that I have to wipe the rims. As you can see on this, is very sticky. If we don't wipe that off when we put them in the canner, what's going to happen, it's going to stop the seal. They won't seal, and they'll also, sometimes the liquid will leak out or sieve out, whatever you want to call it. So I'm taking a clean wet cloth. You can also use vinegar, as long as you know you've got all the stickies off of there, also around the outside of the rim. So let's just make sure. Yeah, a little bit came off there. So I'm going to continue to wipe these. We want to be sure they seal. Ooh, that's hot. And sometimes if you need to, wipe a little bit on the inside of the rim if there's too much close to the rim. You want to get that off as well. So I'm going to continue to wipe all of these. We're going to get them capped and we're going to get them in. But you can see so far how lovely that looks. I don't know if you can see from the top, but that's going to be amazing. So I'm going to clean these up. We'll get them capped and I'll show you how this canner works. Okay, so I put the lids on these and I'm just going to fingertip tight. I don't want to wrench on them just like normal. Now, you may ask why I decided to use water instead of vinegar, because 90% of the time when I can, I do use vinegar to wipe the rims and the outsides of the jars, just to make sure there's nothing sticky or greasy or whatnot on there. But the reason I used hot water this time, and as hot as my hand could handle, was it's something sweet. And it sometimes, you know, if I'm doing just regular other stuff, the vinegar isn't a big deal. If a drip gets in there, I don't want a drip of vinegar in my jam. So that's the reason I use hot water. But if you want to use vinegar, just make sure you squeeze out your nice clean cloth really well, and you should be fine. You wouldn't get anything in there. I'll continue to can these, and we're almost at the canning process with the steam canner, which is really interesting. So maybe it's something you want to think about when you're doing canning. Saves a lot of water, saves time because it's definitely more time efficient. So yeah, it doesn't take as long and you know, as much water. I mean, everything costs everything. We're all paying for water and paying for energy and, you know, electricity or gas or whatnot. So if you want to save a couple bucks through the canning season and you can get yourself one of these canners, that might actually save you a few dollars. So these are all on. I'm going to get us over to the canner. Okay, so basically what this canner is, This is exactly the same method as cold pack food, cold water, hot pack food, hot water. We want this to be 180 degrees. It's 186, so it's a little bit hotter, so that's okay because we've got some very, very hot jam there. This water level for here is right up to, actually it's not quite up to, I should have a tiny bit more water. We want this right up to basically the lid. So there we go. So you can steam, instead of water bath, anything, but you can't do longer than 45 minutes on this. This is not a pressure canning. There is a gauge on this. I'll show you how it works. Please do not pressure can meats, anything, because you're going to end up wasting money and wasting product. So we'll get these transferred over, and I'm going to show you what we do. So there we go. And we can fit a fair amount here. You can also do the tall jars. I'll show you. The lid is quite high, so I'm going to see how many I can fit in. I'm going to kind of round about them here. And I don't know, I think I have a dozen jars here. These are the smaller ones. You can fit 1 liter jars. So if you want to do, you know, it's end of season and you're cleaning up your garden and you have just enough tomatoes to do a couple, you know, maybe 5 jars of tomatoes, and you want to be sure, I'm going to put all these tall ones in the middle. You know, you want to be sure you're not wasting anything, and you want to just jar 5 jars of sauce. 5 liter jars will fit in this just perfectly. So got these all in, the water level's where it needs to be. I'm going to grab the lid. Now I want to show you, there's a gauge on the top here, and I'm going to come in here, and there's a red line here, a little red line that will travel up around. So like I said, you're going to think this is like a pressure canner, but it's not. You do have to get that steamer up to where I have this. When you buy one of these, you have to do a test to see how where you need to put your gauge. There's also a hole on the back here. This is your steam hole. We want that at the back, so we're going to put that at the back. There's a little ridge here, and everything fits perfect. So this will hold 1 liter jars. So what we're going to do is we're going to turn this up, and again, it's hot product, hot water underneath. We want to turn this up. We want to bring it to a rolling boil. And what we're looking for after that is, I'm going to come to the top here. Once this comes to a rolling boil, we want to get, there we go, we want to get this little dial right there all the way up to, I think I'm on O. This needs to be tested every year to determine, you know, where your steam needs to be. Once it gets to this point, we want to keep it at that point. We don't want it going higher, so I'll regulate my burner just to keep it going, and make sure that we keep it that little gauge at that point. Once it's there, we start the processing time. When it comes up to that, we can start your processing time for however long it takes. This is 10 minutes and whatever else you're making. So I'm going to let this go. I'll show you when that gauge gets up there, and then I'll let it go for 10 minutes. You can see here that this is almost at the O, and it's slowly climbing. So we're just about there. When that little red one here in the gauge lines up with this one here, that one, which is just about there, I'm going to set the timer for 10 minutes, and then I'm going to turn it down just a little bit. We're going to try to maintain that that steam level, and we're going to let that go for 10 minutes. Once that's done, I'm going to turn the burner off. We're going to leave it for 5 minutes. We take the lid off then, and then we take the product out and just let it cool. So it should work, and it looks like we're just about that 0. So I'm going to turn my timer on for 10 minutes. And again, remember, keep the steam hole at the back. Hopefully you can see that okay. Yeah, that's where we need it to be. I'm going to turn this down a little bit. We'll turn it down to about a medium. I'm going to continue to watch to make sure that that gauge stays where it's supposed to be, and we're going to come back when these are all ready to take out. Again, 10 minutes. Let it sit for, turn the burner off, let it sit for 5. We'll take the top off so we don't get splashed by any steam, and we'll get them out of the canner. Okay, so the 10 minutes went. I turned the burner off, and I've let it go for 5 minutes. I'm going to remove the lid. There's no suction, you're just going to lift it off straight and take it out here. Don't burn yourself on that steam, and you're going to see here that these are all done. So I got 3 jars, 250 milliliter jars. bring this in so you can see. There you go. I'll do a quick little bit bigger picture after, a closer up picture so you can see. And basically we're just going to leave these, they're already dinging. I'm just going to show you here where we're putting them. So I'm just putting them down here to cool. This is generally where I keep most of my canning stuff when I'm cooling. It's kind of out of the way. So they're already sealing. I can hear them pinging already. It's quiet, but they are pinging. So we're going to remove the rest of these and I'll show you a little picture at the end. So there's our carrot cake jam. So I'll turn this around a little bit so you can just kind of get a little bit of idea. It's hard to see. There you go. You can see a little bit of the consistency there. So I hope you join the page. Don't forget to subscribe. Click the like button and click the little bell for reminders. And I hope you come back and join us sometime. And I hope you try this carrot cake jam from beginning to end. If you just went straight through without all my filming and whatnot, this will probably take you 30 to 40 minutes. So it's worth a try. Definitely a fall treat. And hope you all have a wonderful fall. Enjoy your day and come and join me back soon. Take care and have a great day.